Welcome to the Gold Standard, back and better than ever. I am Braden Gall, and you can, find me in the streets at Braden Gall.
I'm Emma Lingan. You can find me, hopefully not in the streets, but on social media at Emma_Lingan.
Much to discuss today, of course. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. If you are going to be watching a football game on Sunday, which I imagine tens of millions of you are, you're going to need food, you're going to need meats, and you're probably going to need some beverages. And Shotgun Willie's Barbecue has all the meats for you. They got smoked wings, they got ribs, they got sausage, they got pork, they got all the meats you're going to need for the football game on Sunday. And of course, if you need some beverages while watching Preds games or watching football games, which you're also going to need, make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages. And when you're at the party, Emma, on Sunday, don't get in your car. I got to reiterate this. For you Nashville Predators fans, don't get in your car after having some beverages. Just search Uber Eats and have that booze delivered directly to your house. Search Sinkers Beverages. Do not go driving all across multiple neighborhoods in Nashville, Tennessee. That's what I'm saying. I'm not referring to anything in particular, Emma. I'm just saying Don't do that.
Yeah, maybe just don't.
I got a couple of clips of Andrew Burnett and a clip from Jonathan Marsh's show, of course, following the game. This was after the game on Monday night against Ottawa, correct? After Bridgestone Arena decided to boo the Canadian anthem in response to the Canadians booing the United States anthem. I find it to be utterly comical. It's not nearly as big of a deal as anybody's making it out to be. The players are a little frustrated that they have to answer questions about it, but largely do not give a shit about this stupid stuff. And frankly, I want us to come in together here as Predators fans and as Americans and as Tennesseans and maybe have a quick conversation about that a little bit later on. But Jonathan Marsh's show had some good comments after the game. I talked to Colton Sissons yesterday at practice. He had some very, I thought, poignant remarks about the situation as well. And we're going to hear from Andrew Burnett about the trade deadline. And we're going to hear from Andrew Burnett about just how broken this team might be right now after losing 5 consecutive games. The Four Nations face-off is coming up. I don't know who came up with the marketing slogan and the name for that. I feel like they could have done something a little bit better than that, but it's all right. Four Nations face-off just rolls right off the tongue, Emma. So make sure you check it out. I'm seeing Kevin and Nate and Eddie and Josh already in the comments. I love you guys for being in here already. So there you go. Is that Freebird from Kevin? Is that what that is? I like that. There you go. Nate, of course, I wish we could use GIFs, LOL. On what? What is he talking about? Okay. Eddie says, who cares? They booed us. We booed them. It doesn't matter. It's not hockey related. I totally agree. And of course, it's going to make for a great season of South Park. Excellent job, Josh. I do appreciate all good South Park references on the show. Emma, I know you have to do like 112 podcasts like a week. Oh, you can't comment with GIFs. I got you. I know you have to do like 112 podcasts a week. And I know you've probably been asked by all of your co-hosts, including me, what is wrong with the team. And I think you told Gover on It's All Your Fault this week. You're out of words because it's broken. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think that's basically what you said. And I don't know what to ask you about 5 straight losses, scoring 8 goals. They are trending towards a top 3 pick, which many of you listening want, honestly. Coach Burnett made them skate a lot after practice on Tuesday. Then they had Nash Vegas, of course, Tuesday night, and then got their practice canceled today, which is totally fine, makes sense. But he pushed them pretty hard on Tuesday, and we'll play this clip here first. Emma, how about we do this? We'll play this clip first because I don't know about you, but broken is the word I would use to describe Andrew Burnett's demeanor right now. And here was Andrew Burnett yesterday after practice, just sort of talking about the attitude right now of the team.
I think just our mentality, I think it's gotten, frustrations leaked in again. It's been a recurring theme this year, and it's hard to get rid of. And I think it's kind of crept into everything we do. And it's kind of sucked a little bit of our, I hate to say effort out of things. Maybe it's just not the desperation, the commitment that we normally have. We haven't had it quite at that level that when we're at our best and we're us, we had it. We let it slip here. Kind of started the San Jose game at home and kind of slipped into the next week. And, we're no dummies. We know where we are. That Vancouver game the other night was really hard for our group. I think that was one we had to have. We went through stretches. We had a really good push there. We didn't get back on the horse then, and so I think it's kind of crept in there a little bit. That, not saying we feel sorry for ourselves, but we feel things are going to work out, and we got to get that mentality out. We got to go into these next two games, and all we can fight for right now is a really good feeling. And you have an opportunity in those two games, take a breath, reload, come back, and start anew after the break.
All right, Emma. So Andrew Burnett is not exactly a screamer, right? Like, when he talks to the media, he does have sort of a lower tone. He's kind of an even-keeled delivery. It's how he communicates in general. So I'm not trying to make a bigger deal out of this, but that sounds like even more broken than normal. And frustration and no commitment and bad attitude. And I'm not saying it's not normal for a team in this situation, but you're right. I don't know what other words what other words we're supposed to use for how the team's playing hockey right now.
Well, that's why I feel broken. This team has broken me this year because it is my job to have the words, and I don't have any. And it's just, I think it all kind of points to the fact that it is February now. We still don't know what this team is. We don't know who they are, and that's the problem. It's not just like because it would be one thing if it was like, oh, this is a bad team. But if you look at if a team is the sum of its parts and you look at the parts, you're like, no, this isn't a bad team. This isn't a bad roster. This is a very talented roster. They should be better than this, but they just look completely disconnected. They look, again, frustrated, which of course is human nature. I would be frustrated too if I was in their situation, but it feels like they just have no identity, and that is problematic, to say the least.
I am out of things to say myself, and it's honestly strange because I started covering the team in 2016, and I certainly got very lucky on radio with a cup run to the cup. The very next year, they win the President's Trophy, 2 greatest seasons in Predators franchise history. The following year, they won the division. And so that chunk of time, I was very spoiled when this team got started. And of course, as a high schooler, when they came to town, there were 5 seasons. It took them 5 seasons to produce a winning record and to get to the playoffs. But when I drove back from college in 03, 04, I think, for the series against the Red Wings, Game 3 at Bridgestone Arena, I came back. I might have been Sommet Center or the Gaylord Entertainment Center, the GEC maybe back then. And I drove all the way back with my girlfriend at the time to come to the game because this was like this cool thing that had been born here in town. And honestly, we have been spoiled. We have been spoiled since basically that playoff series for almost 20 years. I think they've had one losing record, and that was the strike year before Barry Trotz got fired. And they've had some bad teams that didn't make the playoffs, quote unquote, but a lot of those teams had winning records, over 500 records. And it's just, this is an unusual place to be. This is not a place that the fans know. This is not a place that the media knows. For those of us who kind of have some institutional knowledge back the 25 years, this is not a place that ownership understands. Now, most of the people have changed, right? There's new coach, new general manager, but even Trotz as a GM, he's been through all this good stuff too for a long period of time. This is just totally new. All the players, Stamkos, Marchessault, Yossi, Forsberg, these guys, Saros, they don't know. This is unusual territory for all of these guys. So I don't know what they're supposed to gain from this. I think the young players can benefit a lot from this, Emma, but I don't know what the older players. What does Luke Shen gain from this? It being in this situation.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's not like a rebuild situation. It's not like, okay, guys, buckle up. We're going to be bad for a couple years, and then then we're going to really hit our stride. That wasn't supposed to be what this is, and I think that. I told Gover this on It's All Your Fault, but I've even, I've reached out to people I know around the league, whether it's players, coaches, other media members from other markets. And I'm like, am I just too close to the situation? Am I just missing something? Why? And everyone has been like, yeah, no, this makes 0 sense. This is so bizarre. It does not make sense. And that's why I'm like, it's hard to even judge individual players based on this season because everyone's having a bad season. So it's like you can't really say, I mean, I look at a kid like Luke Evangelista, for example, who, I mean, he's hurt now, but this was supposed to be kind of a year where a lot was expected of him, and he hasn't really, I would say, lived up to those expectations. But I also, at the same time, don't really hold that against him because this whole team has been a dumpster fire this year. So it just feels like a hard year to really give a well-formed opinion about any member of this roster, just because everything about this year has been so unexpected, so unusual.
Josh says it just hasn't made any sense all year. Josh, I completely agree with you. Jesse makes an interesting point here. Was Sherwood that important to this team because the relentlessness from last year ain't there this year? Now, I don't think it's any one player. I don't, Kiefer Sherwood, but like, you can go down the list of players that were on the team at the end of the year, and I've written the article sort of looking at how just different everything is. I mean, McDonough is a grinder. You got, Olivier, you got Beauvillier, you got Zucker, you got all the pieces that were on this team last year that aren't on the team this year. I do think, and this is the one, there's not like a way to prove this, and it sounds almost, it's not illogical, but because like, would you rather have a guy whose upside is 10 goals a year or Steven Stamkos? And generally speaking, you want Steven Stamkos. But there is something to be said about Andrew Burnett's system maybe being better for the younger, hungrier, sort of less talented, more grinded out type of player. And it's not to say that the veterans who are stars don't grind it out too, but it's hard not to allow that to creep into your head. Well, like, no, this system was great for the team last year because it was a bunch of young, hungry guys who, were trying to figure things out. And I realized that Nyquist, O'Reilly, Forsberg all had career years and they're not young, but that as a whole, they were a chip on their shoulder, no expectations kind of squad with a bunch of young guys who didn't have expectations. They went and acquired pieces that didn't have expectations. That's the thing. It's hard not to let that creep into your mind. It's like, well, no, if they went back to being less talented, like an old Predators team, less talented and young and feisty, well, that works with Andrew Burnett's system. I don't know if that's true or not, but the evidence suggests that it is. And I don't know what to make of this for next year or the offseason or the decisions they should make with some of their roster pieces moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I gave up on this season a while ago in terms of like making the playoffs, but I did still have hope that, okay, you know what, this year lost cause, but if they can get it together by realistically about now, then I feel better about next year and the year after. And right now, they don't look to be any more together. So that's what concerns me a little bit more. My patience has run out. And I would say I was probably one of the more patient people with this team as
Yes,
far
you were.
as
Yes,
like,
you were.
just as far as, like letting the system, letting the dust settle and letting guys figure it out. I was never on the cup or bus train, especially for this year. I just like, all right, just give a little bit. I mean, they'll figure it out, and they have not even come closer to figuring it out. And it just, that's what's concerning. Not for this year. This year, lost cause, but like for next year and the year after.
No, that's, I mean, there's a lot of you guys in the comments saying, the decisions don't make sense. It's, the roster decisions don't make sense. The season ticket holder decisions. I know Nate's talking about this in the comments, like, hey, I got to make these decisions about season tickets. I've got to add my daughter, and the prices keep going up. And that was sort of my theory going back to the piece I wrote on Lower Broad Hockey. Go check it out. Like, I think it was last month, about sort of like, let's decide what we want to be as a fan base, as a city, and as an organization. And if we want to be super cutthroat, firing Andrew Burnett when they were struggling was the move to do. And I'm not saying that was right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what a cutthroat organization and city would do. And I think there's plenty of you that would have supported that listening. I think there's plenty of you that are okay with patience and stay the course. Emma, you've always kind of been patience and stay the course. And as Jesse says,
very off brand for me as a person, by the way.
I think it's okay to be patient with like sports decisions and business decisions and like less patient in your personal life. I think that's okay.
That's me.
But if Jesse says, if Emma ran out of patience, this is bad. She's been the most balanced mind on this team. I that was ultimately my point. And if you can't charge cutthroat prices to people. You can't charge season ticket holders cutthroat prices and then act like like the chill non-traditional market. Like if we're going to be the chill non-traditional market where we just want to have a good quality hockey team and we want to have good quality entertainment pretty routinely most nights of the year, it's going to be fun for our kids to go to. We're just going to appreciate good players. We're going to love guys like Pecorine because he's a great guy. And we're going to appreciate Hal Gill because he's hilarious. And we, like it's not about winning a cup. It's about having fun. And I get that. People want to win a championship. I want to win a championship. I get all of that. But if you want to be cutthroat, you got to do cutthroat things. And they didn't. They haven't. They never have. But they're charging cutthroat prices. And I think that's ultimately what's going to push people off. And Josh made it was Josh that said, it doesn't help that there's no resale value. How can you ask people to spend thousands of dollars on season tickets and then when they try to recoup some of that cost, you get in the building for $20, guys. Like it's bad. It's bad right now. And again, I know it wasn't supposed to be this way. I get that. But when you hear Andrew Burnett talk the way he did in that, I've seen him sort of go through the struggles of the frustration and trying to figure things out and tinkering with the lineup. But yesterday felt a little different. Like he skated them hard after practice. They were all on their knees, like gassed and exhausted, like a team that's struggling should be treated. And then he came in and talked to like four of us, and it was even worse than I expected from his demeanor and his sort of personality. And you could tell he's just beaten down, and broken is the word. You said it on the show with Gover. That's how it feels right now with the organization. So.
Yeah. And I will say too, I see a lot of, and I really don't know where this comes from, to be honest, but I've seen it, floating around on social media and everything, like for months now. This is not new, but people saying like, well, Burnett's the problem because he's trying to be one of the boys. Like he's just trying to be one of the guys. And I'm like, first of all,
does anyone know
what?
That?
Second of all, like, again, people are just grasping for anything, I think. But then like, again, looking at that was a bag skate yesterday. He is not just trying to bro out with the guys. Like he works them hard. And, like, I think people take the fact that he does have a reputation as a player's coach and they twist that into something bad because the team is doing poorly. So I just, I think that yesterday is a perfect example of like, yeah, he's a player's coach. He connects with them. He, he communicates with them, but there's still a power imbalance there. It's not,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so we're going to transition into this anthem thing real fast, but because I talked to Colton Sissons about it, but I brought up, so me and my wife, we watched Remember the Titans with our daughters for the first time on Sunday. It's Black History Month. They're old enough to kind of understand the dynamics now. They're studying it in school. It is one of the greatest sports movies of all time, full stop. No space for debate. I'm not even allowing debate on this. I was crying as I do almost every time watching the movie, multiple times. The Gettysburg speech is like when he runs them to the Gettysburg, I'm just like, oh my God. And my daughters were in on it all the time, all the way. And I was talking to Colton about it just in general, because it's an example of how the locker room is such a sacred place. But anyway, the reason I bring that up, not to transition to the anthem topic necessarily, but that coach, Herman Boone, was an example of a non-players coach who was like dog cussing his players all the time. He wanted the team to be unified in their hatred of him. Maybe Peter Laviolette was like that in 16, 17, 18 or whatever. Maybe stylistically he was like that. Even when they're skating to do conditioning or quote unquote punishment, like Burnett's not a screamer. He's not out there like dogging them. Like that's not what he is. And so you can still make him work hard and have the authority of the coach and not be a giant dick about it. Like you can, and some players, I'm not suggesting that some players don't need that type of motivation. There are players that need a stick and some need a carrot. Like that's just the way, and learning the psychology of your humans is sort of modern sports motivation. That's what 2025 is all about. So I think you're right. Like you can be a player's coach and push them hard and also do it respectfully and professionally. I think you can do all of those things. The problem is like right now the system's not working. They don't score goals. They don't win games. Like that's the problem. So don't necessarily have the answers to all of that. Don't know what I just proved with that rant about Remember the Titans.
Well, you proved that Remember the Titans is a great movie.
It is a fantastic movie. Oh man, my wife and I were like bawling on the couch on Sunday afternoon. It was brutal.
Fun fact, and I hope I get this right because I know my dad watches the show. I'm fairly certain that my dad, as a kid, played Little League Baseball with one of the guys on that team. The actual
Like
person.
Gary Bertier or whatever.
Who is the big guy? Who is the really big guy?
Oh, the large offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Well, he went like I can't. He's actually working in Tennessee, strangely enough. But I don't think the huge offensive lineman went on to play baseball.
Well, that's what Little League. This was before that.
Gotcha.
When they were small children.
Where was this?
This is in Northern Virginia.
Okay, because in the movie he had just moved in as a Navy kid, so I don't know if that's the right. So Julius and Gary Bertier, of course, are the star defensive ends, defensive linemen, linebackers that are on that team.
Yeah,
so, and you got Rev, you got all kinds of good characters in that movie.
Yeah,
I know it's all based on a true story, but it's hard to know how real it is. My only complaint, not to get off on a tangent, my only complaint to my wife after the movie is like, man, every time I watch that, I'm always disappointed that they scored with no time remaining on a 75-yard option. That's just not. That's not realistic. I know it's like a civil rights movie, not a football movie, right? But like, that's just bad. That you can't win a game on a Hail Mary by running the ball. Like it's just not how that's not how football works. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. A couple of y'all comments here. Mr. Brazil says, outside of coaching, who in the locker room seems the most visibly or vocally frustrated right now, if possible to tell? Look, it's hard to know what's going on in UC Saros's mind because he's just sort of a very private guy, but watching him, like his locker room presence yesterday, he keeps to himself, generally speaking, but he's not happy right now. And to see him go after Sidney Crosby for what was largely not a big deal. Like Sidney Crosby did not do anything like malicious there. And to see Saros lose it like that, or at least be frustrated, let the frustration get to him, I would say Saros is probably at the top of that list. Somebody said earlier about Steven Stamkos being sort of in a daze. He has felt like that recently in the locker room. Like you just don't see him doing a lot. Now that's partly his demeanor, but you just don't. He's just not a fiery guy.
He hasn't scored. I mean, he hasn't had a point during this losing streak, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. But
what about you?
Think like Saros for sure. I mean, that whole situation with Crosby, that's something where Juice would usually he might chirp at him, he might say something, but he wouldn't physically go after him like that. And that was I think the guys on the ice were like, whoa. I think that, I mean, honestly, I'm frustrated on his behalf because he has been hung out to dry all year. And then everyone comes in and starts criticizing his numbers and his performance. And it's like, okay, they're not giving him a freaking chance and it's not fair. And so it's like when you do a group project and you're the only one who does any work and you get an F, but that's not, it's not because of your work. It's because no one else did their job. So I would agree.
No, I'm with you on that. Jesse says, is there just no buy-in to the coach's system? We're not talking about young players not buying in. We're talking about future Hall of Famers and serial winners. I don't think Ryan O'Reilly's not bought in. I do think, and now I will say this, so after practice, after all that skating where they pushed him a little bit yesterday in practice, which I asked around, it's unusual. It happens sometimes. I don't know how many times you've seen it. I was told maybe the third or fourth time this year that they've done that. You lose 5 games, it makes sense. So it's not like super out of the ordinary, but it is a little unusual. But afterward, it was Ryan O'Reilly and Fedor Svechkov out there working on little saucer passes with each other over the top of some brooms for like a good 15 or 20 minutes. Like I left the locker room after 30, 40 minutes and they were still out there working on that. So Svechkov is like, he sees that he's got a chance to stick. If he puts in the work, he's doing it from what I can tell. And Ryan O'Reilly's out there helping him. So I don't think O'Reilly is, I don't know. What do you make of that question?
Well, I don't want to speak for whoever asked the question, but I feel like a lot of these types of questions that come around right now have to do with the newer additions like Stamkos, Marchessault. I don't know if that's what was implied by that question, but I think that like pretty much anyone who was on the team last year, it seems like kind of has a free pass at this point because we've seen them do it. Like we've seen that they have bought in and they, they made it work last year. It's the new guys that I think people are concerned with. I think part of me, I don't want to
we're out of words.
I know. Bleh. I don't want to say that they haven't bought in because I think that's a mental thing and that would imply that they don't care or they're just checked out, and that does not feel like the case. But I also want to like give them a little bit of grace just as humans and understand that they've all come from extremely different systems where they've been for a very long time. In Stamkos' case, his entire career. And so I like it is hard to kind of unlearn a lot of things, and I think they are having to do a lot of unlearning. So that is, to that end, maybe something where having a younger roster, like more impressionable,
Yeah.
maybe might be a good thing here. But I don't know. I think I don't think it's a buy-in problem. Like, because that again implies that it's mental. I think it's just they're trying, or they have tried, but it's just not clicking for whatever reason. I mean, I've been really, really disappointed, mostly because this was the guy I had the highest expectations for, with Brady Shea.
Yep.
Brady Shea has looked like a lost puppy out there all season. And it's really disappointing because again, I've seen what he can do in Carolina. I had a front row seat to it, and it's just, it doesn't make sense. So you think, well, it has to be the system. So again, maybe it's not that he's not buying in or trying to buy in. It's just, it's like, he just can't, like, it just, I don't know. I mean, it's just, he's not fit.
I completely agree. It's the weirdest one of them all. Like he's the younger of the three new big names. He's the better skater. From a defensive standpoint, he's above average skater. I don't know. Kevin says the problems with inconsistent play have survived since Lavi. Almost makes you think problems are still in the room. Look, that's pointing. If you're saying that, you're pointing at Colton Sissons, Philip Forsberg, and Roman Josi, right? Like of the names. I'm trying to think of who was pre-Hines that was a consistent performer, lots of reps. Those are the three names. And if you're pointing to those three, like you certainly can't point at Colton Sissons. Don't think you can point at Roman Josi. If you want to talk about Philip Forsberg's demeanor maybe not being like elite cutthroat, it's hard to even make that case. Like, so I don't, it's hard to point to those three. Josh says, is there a player who's player on this team that's been through this kind of season before? Not the Predators. I'm sure they're, and certainly not Stamkos with Tampa Bay. I'd have to go back and check. Maybe Marcia Show's been through it. I'd have to go back and look at the teams they were on to sort of tell. Shea at Carolina was on lots of really good teams for the last recent chunk of time.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to all those guys and asked them, like, have you ever, I mean, not within the last week, but I mean,
Right.
even earlier this season, I've asked every single one of those guys, have you ever experienced something like this before? I asked O'Reilly the same thing, and they're like, yeah, no, this is a new one. So it's like, it's not that, and that's what makes it so frustrating, because it's not like you have the benefit of experience to be like, this too shall pass, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think now it's just like, yeah, we really have we're broken. We have no answers.
Kevin wants to get the father of the queen of the pod onto the show. So can we get your dad on the show? Is what Kevin's asking about there. Brazil says it.
I think my dad would rather step on a Lego than appear on a podcast. But
now challenge accepted. Brazil says, with talk about shuffling this late in the season, it tells me that maybe the only way to make it work is with a different coach with a different scheme. It does feel like we're dancing around that like, okay, well, it's not the players. It's not mental. It's not physical. It's not the skill. It's not the experience. It's not this. It's not that. Like, at the end of the day, there's not too many more things we can point to. And honestly, all of that is like Barry Trotz is immune from all of that. We can talk about the trades he's made, and we can evaluate Barry Trotz and the roster decisions he's made and all these other things that he does. But once you're given a bunch of Hall of Famers and a bunch of talented players with a coach whose system we saw worked last year, like it's on that group. It's in that room. It's not the front office that has to figure this stuff out. And so there's no reason to be the worst 2 or 3 teams in the NHL. There's just no logical explanation. Eddie says it. Some of the mistakes Shea is making are the same mistakes that toddlers make. Toddlers do not skate that well, okay? There is no logical reason that a seasoned pro is making those mistakes. I tend to agree.
That's where I'm getting closer to the I'm getting getting closer to the, again, as one of the more patient, level-headed people here, I think that when you have, I think what it seemed like is like Trotz had a plan, and that plan begins and ends with Andrew Brunette and his system, and it's all about the system. And at the time, you think, okay, that's fine. If that's what you're committed to, then that's fine. But now he's gone out, gotten all these players who clearly at this point do not work. They don't fit in this system. So you have to make a decision now. Are you sticking with the coach, or are you sticking with the players? And quite frankly, it's a lot easier to move on from a coach than it is to move on from all these players, like future Hall of Fame players. And again, I will say I am not, at this point, firing Brunette does absolutely nothing for you. He's not gone before the end of the season.
Agree.
But this summer, I think we need to have a very serious conversation about that.
The look on that man's face yesterday did not scream, I'm coming back next year.
Yeah.
It just didn't.
To all the people who are like, fire him, doing that now.
Oh, now means that, yeah. The one argument I think I got from folks, and I think this was in the Lower Broad Hockey chat, which is like, well, just give somebody a chance to come in and kind of implement. Like, no, I hear what you're saying. You kind of, if Andrew Brunette was like an overbearing asshole, like,
right,
then maybe you want to.
If he was John Tortorella, then
right,
maybe.
like then I could see removing the tension from the room, freeing up people's like space to breathe a little bit, and like giving them a little confidence and a little happiness and a little joy in their lives down the stretch could be good. But that's not what he does to them. That's not how he treats them. So
yeah, it's not a personality problem with Andrew Brunette. It's actual hockey stuff that's the problem. It's not his person.
If he was creating a cult, if he was part of the culture problem, then I like a Tortorella might be. When it wears thin, and everybody's not listening, and everybody doesn't like each other, and they're not getting along. Like, then you might want to remove that variable from the equation. I just don't think that's the case here. So at least in my opinion. So it sounds like you kind of agree with that. And so it does feel like there needs to be a very serious conversation, like in the week after the season's over. That Barry Trotz has to do some soul searching. He needs to come together with the powers that be in that front office, and they got to talk to the players about this stuff. And they got to figure out what's going on, because the system is the thing that's not working, whether it's the player's fault or not. It's everybody's fault. It's all y'all's. It's the front office. It's the coaching staff. It's the players. It's everybody. It's all y'all's fault. It's all y'all's fault.
No, I agree. I think that, it's at the end of the day, if you're Barry Trotz, you got to be okay admitting, hey, this one's on me. I hired the guy that I thought was going to be, I thought this was going to be my guy. I thought he was really going to do it. And it didn't work out. And that's okay. You just take the L, move on, find someone else. Because I think that it's just, again, it's the evidence is becoming impossible to ignore now, that it really is the system that is not working. And again, like you said, Braden, it's not Brunette's fault. It's not a player's fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just, as a collective, it's not working. And so if you are this committed to your coach and your system, when all of these players are clearly struggling in it, then that's something that needs to be reevaluated after the season.
Yep. All right. If you need a drink after all that, I understand. Sinkers Beverages is the place to do that. If you would like champagne for brunch, if you would like beer for a football game on Sunday, if you would like something stronger during Preds games, understandably so, Sinkers Beverages, of course, in East Nashville, 40 years of serving the East Nashville community, their sister store, Bluegrass Beverages. So if you are in the greater Nashville area, East Nashville or North Nashville, Sinkers Beverages and Bluegrass Beverages, those are the two places to go. Almost 100 years of serving the community, locally owned. And I guarantee you the guy who owns the business, who's a friend of mine, knows he is a diehard Predators fan. We turned off the NFL draft last year during an NFL draft party to watch the Nashville Predators playoff game. All right. He was like, no, I don't care about the Titans. We're watching the Predators game. And so this is a big time supporter of the Nashville Predators. So make sure you go support their business. They keep this product free for all of you guys. So please search Uber Eats, Sinkers Beverages, have the booze delivered directly to your house, whether it's a Friday night, whether it's a watch party, whatever it might be, just have that booze delivered directly to your house. Please do not drive your car all around Nashville into multiple neighborhoods, please, people. And of course, if you need some meats for your Sunday gathering, take all the stress out of planning your party and just let Shotgun Willie's Barbecue handle that for you. Get a couple racks of ribs, get a bunch of smoked wings, get some pork, get some sausage, and just go order it all. Go into the shop 11 to 3, Wednesday through Sunday, or give them a call and say, hey, I'd like to order some meats for my party. And then there you go. You're good to go. Outsource it, and everybody at your party will be impressed. You will be the MVP of the party. Although I am excited to watch Kendrick Lamar. So there's that. That's cool. I'm excited about that part. For some reason, I think the Eagles...
Not Like Us is gonna hit so hard this year at the Super Bowl.
Is it bad that I don't play an edited version for my daughters?
Oh,
I don't play edited anything for my kids. We don't listen to that Disney shit. We
I mean, hey, I'm all for it.
Gover's the same way. Gover lets his son listen to all the real stuff and then tries to teach him what words you cannot ever say.
I mean, that's important as long as you're doing that. Yes. But not my poor father is catching strays today. But I just remember when I was, I love my dad. When I was like, I think it was like 12 or 13 was when Sexy Back came out by Justin Timberlake. And it was, on the old iTunes where I don't even know if it still does this. I don't use iTunes anymore, but it would have like the little red E next to it for explicit. Yeah. And that obviously as a 12 or 13-year-old, I did not have my own iTunes account. It was my dad's. And so I had to get his permission if I was going to download a song. And that one had the E next to it. And so I will never forget my father sitting in our basement computer room listening to Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake to determine whether I was allowed to listen to it. So I don't even know what the explicit words are.
I was just thinking, I was like, that's not even compared to Not Like Us. It's not even close.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, Not Like Us. I would never sometimes I would not feel comfortable listening to Just Like Us in my dad's presence now. I would be like, please turn it off.
Well, I'm assuming,
and I love that song. It's a great song.
No doubt. Song of the year, right? As soon as they get older, they'll probably feel the same way. Which is, I can't listen to this around my dad. But like, what's funny is that my daughters both, they it's hard to sing along with a hip hop song in general, especially Kendrick, because he's just so talented. And they were like, they do the A minor line because it's the slow part where they can just be like minor, and I'm like. Every time I'm like, I don't think you understand what that means.
No, sure.
And I'm glad you don't understand what that means. They like to sing wop wop, they like to do the whole thing. There's a Maren Moore song. Yeah. The first song on the Maren Moore's Hero record, which is I'd Be Rich, I think, or something like that. I can't remember, where there's a line where she's like, shit, I'd be rich. I'll just hear them walking through the house, just singing that song to themselves. And what me and my wife think is like, there's a lot of different, like, first of all, you have to teach kids how to use. Now we're off on a tangent here, but you know what? The team sucks. You have to teach people, like, I want to teach the kids how to use words. Like, I'm not going to stop my daughters from hearing all these words in the world. So I want to prepare them to have the equipment and the tools to sort of handle all those words and know how to use them. And one time my daughter's coloring and she gets outside the lines and she goes, shit. And I was like, can't really get upset with you because that's the appropriate use of the word. You're kind of frustrated with your own performance and you kind of use the word the right way. And I'm like, I don't care what words you use, but if you're trying to hurt someone's feelings, that's the wrong use of the word. I don't care if you're using bad words or not. We're not going to try to hurt other people. Kindness is going to be something that you guys are going to get from your mom and dad. The other one is like Gover says, he's like, there's words that you can say all the time There's words that you can say around me and your mom and your friends because we don't care because we've taught you how to use them. There's words you can't say around, grandma and grandpa or your teachers. And then there's words you can never say.
Yes.
And certainly Kendrick Lamar provides the opportunity to teach my daughters that these are the words.
I was going to say, I think Not Like Us kind of has the whole spectrum in that song where it's like, these are words you can say around mom and dad. These are words you can't say ever at all. And plus you get a nice little history lesson in there too, a little civil rights, a little bit of everything.
When he says Snoop, you can say Snoop Dogg. You can't say the one after that.
No.
Or Pac. You could say Pac, but you can't say the one after that. I'm just letting you know, girls. It's hard to point that out too to the younger ones. It's like that one right there. Can't use that one. Which one, Dad? Can't say it.
Yeah, just
anyway.
No.
Anyway. All right. Let's get into some cultural questions here. Hooray. I've got one question for you, Emma, that we're going to spend some time on, but we'll get to this in just a second. So, Jonathan Marsh. So let's lay this out. For those that do not know, and I want this to actually be a moment where like our audience can come together. I don't care who you voted for. I mean, I do, but like not in our community here. Like I want us to be able to say like, we're all different. We all have different priorities. We all have different values. It's totally okay. This is a safe space for everybody to kind of disagree and have a good time. For those that don't understand, there was this tariff thing between Canada and the United States. There's been a lot of talk about our newest president trying to bring Canada on as the 51st state, which I'm sure most Canadians are just ecstatic about. So it built to this sort of like weird trade thing over the weekend, last weekend, where they were going to impose some tariffs on Canadian goods and Mexican goods and vice versa, right? Which is just going to be totally inflationary, and it's going to raise the cost of goods for everybody, both countries. So I guess that's what led fans in Ottawa, correct, to boo the U.S. anthem. Because Canadians are sort of like, no, we'd like our nationality. We'd like to be Canadian. And we don't want to pay extra for, whiskey and whatever else. So they booed the United States anthem. Am I correct so far on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Ottawa then, of course, is coming to Nashville, Tennessee on Monday night. And there was a lot of anticipation about what's going to happen. What I find, and I can't do anything about the Canadian folks. I want to talk to just us Americans here. Which, number one, I think this entire issue encapsulates sort of all of our unique adversity that we're facing right now as a country. Number one, information. That's a big one. Everybody felt, I'm assuming, like the Canadians dunked on us, so we had to dunk back on them, I guess, which is very Twitter-ish, and I it is what it is. So I get that. The tariffs themselves, the debate itself, ended before the game. Like the entire thing was over before the game happened.
It's mob mentality.
Right. Of course. So in reality, what happened was this Canadian thing between the US and the Canada, like it was over before the game started. It was a great political ploy by Trump because he got what looked like a win for himself, while not actually getting anything out of the Canadians at all, other than like a fentanyl czar who, apparently there was like 8 pounds of fentanyl captured at the border last year. Like not the issue with the Canadian border. That one's down south. So in and of itself, this entire thing was like a giant nothing burger in reality, which leads, of course, to people at Bridgestone Arena booing the national anthem. So let's play Marsha show first. I'll tell you what I talked to Colton Sissons about, and then I'll get you to my. That was a long wind up to get to another question, but here was Marsha's show after the game on Monday night.
Yeah, I don't think nothing should be said for any anthems. I mean, honestly, it's the anthem is not made for make political views. It's made for respecting the veterans in both countries, and I think that's something that everybody like same thing in Canada that they booed the U.S. anthem. I think at the end of the day, it's we're respecting the veterans and the people that defend our countries, and it's bigger than just trying to do a little. I mean, just trying to give a shot to the other country. I think people need to think a little further than that. Thank you, John.
All right, so I think you could take this in a serious way, which, when I talked to Colton Sissons about it, I kind of wanted to go remember the Titans way, which was like, isn't this locker room full of different nationalities a very special place where all of you get to sort of see each other first as people and as teammates, and you get to kind of ignore some of that stuff. But when it does come up, you can kind of do it with people that you care about and you respect, and you have this, and like he totally agreed, like, hey, that shit's not, and he actually was like, this is so ridiculous. I can't believe it got blown out of proportion. But also, like, I'm also kind of going, you know what? This is a sporting event. We're fans. They're free to do what they want to do. Where are you at on all this? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Does it matter to you? Do you care?
I mean, I am of the belief that, well, I mean, this is probably going to get into a bigger question that I know you want to talk about. I am of the belief that the anthem does not belong in sporting events unless it is
No.
if it's like the Olympics or an international tournament of some sort, sure, that's fine. But for something like this, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are sports the one place where we do this? It's not
church?
like you don't go to
church.
You don't
do you
go
go
to
to church in the morning?
It's like you don't go to a concert and it's like, all right, everybody stand up. Like you don't do it when you go to work. You don't do it when you go to the grocery store. Like why are sports? Why did we decide this? But anyway, that's my stance on it overall. But given that it is, happening now, I will say that I don't think I mean, I really don't, like, again, I think a lot of it is just, like I said before, mob mentality and people just being loud because they feel like they need to be. And I just think that I do agree with Marchessault on the part where he said that, I don't think that either anthem should be booed. Like, it's about, you got to respect. Like, again,
I love Canada. What's the hate about Canada? They're like the best trade partner, country, neighbor we've ever had. Like, but
it's like when they play, like, and I don't know. I mean, when they play the Canadian national anthem, there's no expectation that we as US citizens are going to stand there and put our hands over our hearts and sing it. That's fine. But like, you stand there and you're quiet and you're respectful. Like that's kind of where I'm at with it, and vice versa. So I think that like the booing it's
Eddie,
stupid.
Eddie says never forgive them for Canadian bacon. Josh says flip side, they should play every national anthem for every country represented. Let's have a half hour of anthems before the game. I think that ultimately proves the point of like, I agree with you. I've thought this all the way back to the whole football kneeling thing. It's like, why do we do this? What's the purpose? Yeah. And like, we all have American pride. We all have pride in our country. We certainly all love and respect and appreciate our military veterans. There's no question about that. We go out of our way to do that. And I think, frankly, in the games in Bridgestone Arena, I think we, instead of having the military salute every game, why not have a first responder salute? Why not have teachers in there? Why not have nurses in there? Why not celebrate the people that do help our community, including military veterans? We go over the top in sports with this. And Eddie's making a point about like sort of city fights and sports have replaced war. Like, I don't know if I agree with that. There's certainly healthy internal U.S. rivalries, Philadelphia and New York or whatever in sports. The Predators and the Blackhawks have a great rivalry. Like, I don't think that replaces like international trade wars. Like, I don't think that is as meaningful as like, I don't think that's what's happened here. We still have lots of conflict around the world that we have to deal with. So I don't know if that's happened, but I'm okay. I'm also don't want to overreact to just like a bunch of fans doing a boo at a sporting event. Like, it's not that big a deal. I do think, I just think it's the perfect embodiment of like how we don't know what's happening. And to your point about mob mentality, it's a perfect example of how no one actually can articulate why they're booing for the anthem other than they did it first. And there's no understanding of the actual issue because the issue was over before the game. So you can't actually be booing because of the tariff war between Canadian goods and services and the US, because it was over. It was done before the game. And it wasn't even a real thing anyway. It's a perfect embodiment of how we don't have all the information. We don't pay close enough attention, but we get along with whatever's happening because it feels good. And that is what it is. I don't know if we've got a solution for that one, Emma. I'm not sure. We covered parenting and international politics on the show today. So
yeah, as a I'm I'm struggling to say something in response to that will not make this a political discussion.
This is your space, man. We got good people in here. If they disagree with you, that's okay. It's all right.
That's the thing is I don't want to, but I do think that it is indeed a commentary on society now, and like you said, it's just they get along with whatever's going on, and it's frankly, things getting blown way out of proportion, and it's now the players are having to answer questions about it, and they don't want to do that. Like that's
Yeah. No, yeah. I talked to Colton for a while about it, and he was just sort of like, it's so far from our minds because they're like everything we just talked about with this team. They have no answers for how to win games. Like that's all they care about. And I sort of asked him, I said, look, you've been on this team a while. You've been in this locker room a long time. And, over that period of time since 2016, there's been a lot of things that have from the world outside that have worked their way into sports. A variety of issues that affect a variety of people. Of course, he's from Canada for the record and all this, which is partly why I wanted to talk to him about it. Brunette had some choice words after the game as well. He's like, I just don't like it. I don't think it's something we should be doing. And they're sort of required to answer the questions like that. And Colton was just sort of like, no, we don't have time to think about this stuff. And B, when it does come up, we have ourselves, and this is what I think is really the most important lesson. For kind of not even this issue, but for everything. Like the beauty of a locker room and why I talked to him about Remember the Titans. The beauty of the locker room is that you can close ranks. You can close the walls. You don't have to include the rest of the world. And you get to know people. It's why I believe in sports in general, as somebody who grew up in a very diverse locker room playing sports all my life. Like I got to learn about other people from somebody I am going to battle with proverbially. And I think that's kind of what Eddie's getting to here. Like the sanctity of a locker room is very special, especially in the NHL where there's international players from all over the Russian. You don't think the Russian conversations have been interesting inside the locker room over the last few years?
I remember when I was with the team my first season in 2022, and we almost couldn't go to the Global Series because Yakov Trenin was on the team.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. And that's again, I think goes back to like why everyone trying to bring politics into everything where it doesn't belong.
As we're doing it here on the pod. Eddie kind of, and maybe I'm missing kind of what Eddie's trying to get across about sort of sports rivalries and city rivalries, kind of replacing some of that stuff. Maybe it's because we have evolved as a society to the point where we just don't have as many acute needs as a country. Like we have more people out of poverty. We have more access to food. We have more, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not like constantly going into drafts to fight wars around the world. So like we need something to put our energy towards, and maybe that's where sports comes in. It's like no. I need to be angry about something. I don't. Maybe that's where you're going with that, Eddie. So I don't know, but I could see that.
Not if you're a woman. And that's all I'll say.
Fair. Fact check. True. Okay, so I just wanted to get that
your
out.
Energy towards something. There you go.
Hey, girl dad over here. I'm with you.
I don't mean you. I mean the proverbial you, everyone.
I guess, and I think our audience is good enough, smart enough, cool enough, fun enough that we can all vote for different people, all still agree with each other, all still be cool, just like in the locker room, have different backgrounds and different opinions. And I think the question about anthems at sporting event is a very real one. I don't understand. Like we don't go to church and the first thing at church is we all stand up and sing the national anthem before we go to church. Like it doesn't happen anywhere else. There's a Pledge of Allegiance in school, I guess, but that's not the anthem. We're not standing up before math class and all singing the anthem together. You go to dinner with you. Let's just everybody stand up in the restaurant and like sing the anthem.
Yeah. Like you don't do it at a concert. You don't do it at anything else. Like why sports? Again, I think that and it's kind of funny. I was talking to someone about this the other day where I said like, yeah, in the Olympics or like a World Cup situation, then yeah, of course it makes sense there. But even then it's like, you have to earn it. It's only if you're on the podium, your anthem gets played.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's kind of what's cool about it. It's total meritocracy.
Yeah. Well, and again, especially in hockey, where most of the players on the teams are not, maybe not most, but like a lot of the players on the respective teams are not Canadian or American. And it's like, why are we,
it's a perfect segue into the Four Nations face-off because we're running a little late here, but because I wanted to talk trade deadline as well because Burnett had an interesting comment yesterday. But real quickly on the Four Nations thing, Gover was it sounds like Gover was telling you on y'all's show this week that he's just not that into it. He's not looking forward to it. It's an NHL event, feels like a fabricated all-star game. I totally understand all of those arguments. I view it as a reprieve from watching Predators hockey, and I love international competition, which is kind of the point. So to your point about the Olympics and sort of nationality being after all that conversation, I'm genuinely interested to watch this because I think players, and talking to players over the years, they care deeply about international competition. They do have a lot of pride in their country's history in this sport in particular. And so getting to see all of that happen. Do I love that it's the middle of the year? Do I love that it creates a break? Do I love that UC Saros is going to play extra games? Like, I don't love any of that. I don't love how fabricated it is, but I'm kind of excited to see it. I think it's interesting. It's a new concept. I like new and interesting, and this is entertainment. So I don't know. I would tell Gover, like, come on, man, be more Gover.
I know that was
the positive one.
That was a very ungover-like take by him. But I mean, I tried to, I'm like, I see where you're going with it. I think that like it is still an NHL event, so it still feels a little fabricated, a little, I don't know, like gimmicky maybe. But sure. I think that compared to the All-Star game, this is so much better. And I'm more excited for this because again, they are actually playing for something. Like, yes, it's not like a qualifying tournament. It's more of an exhibition-y type thing, but it's still like they're playing for their country. In a lot of cases, these guys, you know, I mean, you're now kind of spanning generations, which is cool. But I think that like with a lot of these guys, you know, these are guys who played together on like their respective world junior teams when they were kids. And now they get to play together again. And it's, you know, they've had these relationships for a long time and it's cool. Like, I do think that, you know, that element of it does make this way more like I had no desire to watch the All-Star game, but I have a desire to watch this. Like this, I
totally agree.
Will be good. And I think that for the record, this is a situation where the anthem makes sense because you are representing your country.
If you win, play the anthem.
You gotta earn it.
I would like to, I do feel like it could be six countries though. Like Russia needs to be involved in this. There's too many really good Russian players.
But Russia is still on the outs with the IHF, so it's a whole thing.
You know, maybe just have the president threaten some tariffs, and then maybe we'll get some movement on that.
We'll get the Mexican national hockey team in here next. That'll be
awesome. No, look, I think it could be 6, but anyway, I'm interested to see it. You got a couple Preds playing in it. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. And most importantly, Roman Josi will not be. So get that man some rest.
That's the other thing. I mean, like, yes, obviously he deserves all of the rest, and he did play for Switzerland at the World Championship this past summer. But like, I don't know, even countries like Switzerland, they have some really talented players like Roman Josi, Nico Hischier, Nino Niederreiter. But it's like, I don't know.
Not enough. They don't have enough.
They don't have a full team's worth of like really like threatening players.
I know that Russia's on the outs with the IHF, but it's really like there's only like 5. Like it's hard to get to the 6th one. What will be the 6th country that has enough to field an entire roster?
Yeah, there isn't.
Because wasn't the international
Czech Republic maybe?
Wasn't there a combination like an other European nations combo team?
It was
sort of like Switzerland and Czech and everything else kind of put together.
Maybe they had like it was like Team North America, and then there was like Team Europe. It was something like
North
that.
North America's not fair. You got to break up Canada and America. You got to break them up. You got to break them up. Anyway, I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be interesting. I'm open-minded about it. I'm gonna go in saying like, hey, let's see what this is like. And I just enjoy international competition on any level: soccer, basketball, hockey, baseball. You know, the World Baseball Classic. Like, you give me international stuff where people are playing for pride in their country. It just means a little bit. It's just got a different meaning to it. So I think it's interesting. That's where you can boo. Settle down. I avoided that. I was trying to avoid that.
I saw you dancing around.
I know. It's one of the most brilliant marketing slogans that now like is a negative. All right. This was quickly here. This was Andrew Burnett on how the trade deadline is affecting the locker room.
The position that we've been in, you know, as a pro, as a player, you kind of know, you know, something could happen. You know, as a coach, I hope you know, for me, you don't feel that same thing. You're just trying to work day to day with what the group you have. But I think if a player's mindset of when I was a player, I think it definitely plays in your head a little bit. I think it's affected, obviously, not just losing where we are and some uncertainty going forward. It's always, this walk of life is never a lot of fun, and it's very distracting. And I think, some of us have been distracted a little bit in our group, and it's human nature, and we totally get it.
Human nature, distracted, not coming off the other comments he had about how the frustration is seeping in, just not a good place to be. And I was talking to some other folks in the locker room yesterday, they know, we're all adults, and all the things that you think as a human about this situation are true. If you're Gus Nyquist, of course you're thinking about it. How would you not be thinking about it? It's impossible not to think about it. So I think I'm curious what you make of the deadline in terms of the nation's face-off here. Should they be getting all the pieces out before that tournament so that people have time to acclimate and get situated and kind of get it'd be you might be able to charge more because you're getting more games out of the deal. That's probably not a factor, but it's more about, hey, if you trade someone to a team, especially somebody who's not playing, if it's Lauzon, for example, who hopefully would be healthy by the time they would trade him, or McCarron, for example, not playing in this tournament, that's a lot of time that you could spend with the coaching staff, with the organization, getting settled, getting acclimated, getting your family moved if you wanted to do that. There's lots of ways that break would actually help a player who gets traded, in theory.
Yes, but I think that the break it is truly a break. Players, coaches, everyone goes on vacation. They're not necessarily around. So I don't know how that extra time would really be that beneficial. I see what you're saying, but I don't know that is going to factor into any of this decision making or strategizing as much.
Well, fair. But if I'm Michael McCarron, and I get traded to a team that's contending, wouldn't I want to? I mean, I know he's got a young family at home he's a new father and all that stuff. But wouldn't you want to take some time, and then wouldn't you want to get there early and sort of get to the new team and get a chance to get in there with the strength staff, get to know the film staff, get to know acclimate yourself with the buildings. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. It feels like from a human side, if we're talking about that, there's a benefit to having a chunk of time here. I think teams are. Look at all the moves that have happened. I think teams are treating it like a pseudo deadline to some degree.
Well, yeah, because it's a long break. It's you've got less than a week left right now. The Predators have 2 games left before this break, and then they don't play again until February 22nd?
22nd, I think. Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's a long time, and I get that. I think it would make more sense not for a team like the Predators, obviously, because they are not going to be buying or, shouldn't be. More for the other teams. It's how aggressive are they going to be? And you mentioned the deals that have already happened, which is true, but those are major needle moving trades. And I don't know that anyone on the Predators right now would be part of a major needle moving trade. It would be more like depth moves to kind of shore up your bottom 6 or your defense. I don't know that these hypothetical trades at this point would even be in the same category.
We'll spend more time on this next week, but are you of the belief that they should move every piece possible? I've come around on keeping O'Reilly and Sissons specifically because they're under contract. They're veteran pieces that do things that you don't necessarily have on the roster. And that if you fire the coach and you want to change things and kind of, try to compete next year, it's going to be much you can move Nyquist, you can move Lauzon, you can move McCarron. There's other pieces you can move that don't necessarily hinder your ability to compete next year. If you were to move all of them, I do think that does change your ability to compete next year, and especially O'Reilly and Sissons. Those 2 in particular. Are you at the soft sell, which I think we got a question on the chat about that? Are you in the soft sell, get rid of a couple pieces, or are you in the, if somebody's going to give you something, let's take everything we can and build for the future?
I think I lean more towards the soft sell. I think I'm with you on keeping O'Reilly and Sissons in particular. If someone's offering you anything for Lauzon, Nyquist, especially, he's on an expiring contract. McCarron, same thing.
Yep.
Like if someone's making you an offer for those guys, you know, we don't want another Alex Carrier situation because, you know, like last year the Predators were still in it at the deadline and they did get offers for Carrier, but said, no, we are still in this, so we're going to keep him. They're obviously not in that situation right now. So if they do get an offer, even if it's something that Barry Trotz might consider subpar for a Michael McCarron or something, you take the deal, because, you know, I'm with you on O'Reilly and Sissons. Would be very disappointed to see either of those guys go. Would also be surprised to see either of those guys go. But yeah, I'm leaning more towards the soft sell, and I am really coming around on let's reevaluate the coaching staff after this.
Oh, look, 5 straight with 8 total goals and no games in overtime against some bad teams will do that to you. No, I just think eventually you're just out of answers, right? Like eventually there's no more. We've tried everything, and I think we're getting pretty close. So we shall see. All right, Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I'm telling you guys, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, best brisket in the city. I know a bunch of you guys have gone and tried it out. If you are Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., you can go by any time until the meat is gone, and make sure you use them to supply your party on Sunday with the best possible smoked meats you can get in this city. So go check it out. Sinkers Beverages, great place. Go stock up, watch games this weekend, and watch the big game on Sunday. Great place to go stock up on your beverages. Have a, you know, make like a fun cocktail for your party. Like come up with something new, something different, and just make a cocktail, have fun with it, and serve it up and see what happens. They'll help you out. Like, hey, what can I make? What would you make at a party on Sunday, Emma, if you had to make a cocktail for everybody that you could serve?
That I could serve. What do
Yeah.
you mean? As opposed
You
to
know, like
serve?
no, like put like one that's more of like a bowl, like a big old bowl of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not like, hey, I'm gonna make you I'm gonna make you a specific drink. I'm talking like one that you serve to everybody.
I don't know.
Is tequila good for a party? I feel like vodka is less offensive.
Yeah, see, I personally am a tequila fan, but I do feel like you're right. Vodka is less offensive for the group. So some like a vodka or even gin, you know, if you do like
gin is very polarizing. You got to be careful with gin. It's very aromatic, you know, like some people don't like that. I think vodka is like the most like unoffensive. Yeah. I like tequila, but it makes people crazy. So,
yeah. No,
I enjoy
like
tequila.
it too.
Like bourbon. I love bourbon too. I love bourbon and tequila. Those are my 2 liquors that I drink, and you can't really like, you know, people are out or in on bourbon. Like it's very, you either love an old fashioned or you'll never drink anything with bourbon in it. You know, like it's hard.
And
I think
I'm the latter.
Yeah, I think vodka is the most that will bring in. It's the most broadly appealing. I feel like if you wanted to make a mixed cocktail beverage of some sort. The point is, I can't give you those recipes and I can't help you with that. But Sinkers Beverages, you go in there and say, look, I'd like to make a fun cocktail. Try something new for our party this Sunday. What do you have in mind? They will give you all the ingredients you need to make and the recipe, and they'll help you do it the whole time. So there you go. Take care of all of your party needs with Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Emma, despite all the outside of the other 46 podcasts you do, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingan.
Eagles or Chiefs?
Eagles.
I'm with you. Why do I feel that way? Why is everyone picking the Eagles?
Because everyone's sick of the Chiefs.
I am not. I don't like the Eagles. I'm a Packers fan. They beat us twice this year. Knocked us out of the playoffs. I hate the Eagles.
I don't want Kenny Pickett to get a Super Bowl ring, but more than that,
evil.
More than that, I like Jalen Hurts. I like Saquon.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
tired.
True.
I'm tired of the Chiefs. I don't have this visceral hatred of the Chiefs that a lot of people seem to. Like, I don't care that much. I don't care that much, but it's kind of becoming like a Tom Brady, Bill Belichick thing where I'm like, all right, enough.
Kevin, Emma can be found on all platforms as Queen_Lingan. Kevin also says eggnog, Kahlua, Bacardi 151. That'll get you going. Man, that's a lot of calories. And Nate says, go easy beer. Absolutely. Very easy. Just you get one of those variety packs where you have a ton of different kinds of beer. That way everybody can get you like Pilsners, you like lagers, you like IPAs. You got something for you. No, I am interested in the three-peat because I'm 42 years old and have never seen that in my lifetime. I think that's an interesting story. And for it to happen with good people, Mahomes and Andy Reid, these are good people. You know, Tyreek Hill's not there anymore, aka not good person. You know, I can get behind that as a story. I just want to see overtime. Just show me overtime again, like when these two played a couple years ago. I'm good to go. So
Yeah, I just want it to be a good game, not to be like, I just hope everyone has fun, but like I hope it's actually a good game.
I want it to be a good game. My daughters are rooting for as many Taylor Swift cameos as possible. Kendrick Lamar is going to be great. Can't wait for that. And otherwise,
that's actually who I'm rooting for, Kendrick Lamar.
Facts. All right. For Emma and Braden, thanks to all of you guys in the comment section. We do appreciate you guys. Try to enjoy something this weekend. It's the best I can do. Otherwise, rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up on the notifications on the YouTube page. Subscribe to Lower Broad Hockey, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Boys Barbecue. For Emma and Braden, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you guys next time.